Hey everybody, welcome into the Irish NFL show. We've got Brian coming in a bit, columns here at the minute. We're presented by Matchbook Betting Exchange, Trust Gaming, Mini Arcade Systems, and also the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. You can check out more details online at CFB Ireland and on our website as well, collegefootballireland.com. Colin with me. Colin, you doing well?
Yeah, doing very well. As we have said, Michael, it never stops. There is always a story or two in the league every single week, and we have a couple of them to talk about this week.
It's going to be a good show. This is week two of week two after LA. We've got the producer of Good Morning Football, Matt Hamilton, coming on, and we've also got Daire Carragher from the Orchard County coming on. Going to be good to have a local man to me chat to in a minute. But we've got big news, column, and obviously our friend Tadhg Leader has signed, and he's going to play in the CFL with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And it's great, column, to start off the show this week with Tadhg. Here he is, Tadhg. Welcome in. You like first off, congratulations, because this is and I know on a personal level for you, somebody that was playing rugby for years and making that transition to playing American football. This is a personally a huge moment for you.
Yeah, it is. And to be honest with you, I initially got the news myself on Friday of last week, so it's almost been a week. But the first 3 or 4 days, it didn't really kind of sink in at all. And then yesterday, being Wednesday with the announcement, that's probably when it sunk in, when I kind of got all the messages of support and people reaching out that are really kind of, yeah, it made me kind of just think about it a bit more and be kind of proud of what's happened. But then obviously you're always hungry for more. But yeah, it's been a mad kind of week, kind of keeping on the down low for a bit and saying nothing. I want to tell people, but it was quite exciting for me. But anyway, yeah, it's been cool the last kind of week or so with the news.
And Tig, obviously, that path from into the CFL, we've had Alex Singletary on this show. He played in the CFL before going to the Eagles. Lawrence Tynes was on with us, and he talked about his experience in the NFL and the CFL and how it prepared him for the NFL and ultimately winning Super Bowls. But for people watching this who may have seen your name, the work you've obviously been working away. You were playing last summer, but you've kept training. But can you talk to us, I suppose, about how this deal for you came about?
Yeah. So I first would have got in touch with them with Hamilton last year after the spring league. They kind of reached out to see what I was up to, just a more of just an informal introduction, I'd call it. And then as I watched them all season, last CFL season, obviously Jeff being such a big part of the Irish kind of community as well, with him being involved, I guess I was kind of seen on Twitter. So I've been aware of them and had loose contact throughout the year. And then after the European League, I was hoping for something to happen for me. And again, you kind of have these very vague, loose conversations with teams, like very informal, like annoyingly so. But and Hamilton was one of quite a few teams. And then I've just been out here training for the last. I was back in Ireland, obviously, and then I went out here to Spain to train for a bit, just because I said I want to give myself every possible opportunity, that if an opportunity does come, I'm actually feel ready and confident about it. And having good weather for kicking makes that a bit easier. But I got told on Friday. On Thursday, I actually reached out myself and sent them a text and said, "Hey, like what's happening?" Because I was actually getting phone calls from rugby teams to see would I come back and play. So and I felt a little bit, out of touch a little bit. Didn't know what was happening with regards teams, and then the rugby stuff was coming up, and I knew in my heart and soul I didn't want to do it, but eventually need a job. So I just kind of reached out to the teams and said, "Hey, like, where are we at?" And then Hamilton set up a call for the next morning what I thought was just going to be to kind of keep me interested, but not make anything formal. And then once they said, "Hey, we're going to sign you," I was just kind of taken aback, and I just internally I was like, "Oh wow." My only question was, like, I put down on paper was, where do I stand? Like, what's happening? So I was able to write down, like, "You're signed." As the guy was just told me that, it was nice to just a bit of a thing for myself. But yeah, it was a bit mad, and now I'm just delighted that something's actually happened, so I can train with a little bit of certainty now, rather than just being in the dark and hoping.
I think it really speaks for Ireland and for the island of Ireland, Tag, that your signing was probably the most popular in the CFL on social this off season so far. So obviously, from all of us, a huge congratulations, and hopefully this isn't just the next step in your journey. And I know there's a lot of people from Hamilton, from Ontario, that are excited about this as well, and they're going to have to learn how to pronounce your name as well. And you're talking just a little bit about the Tiger nickname. Yeah, I didn't know you had a nickname called Tiger. You never told us that in Dublin, though, to be fair.
I didn't really have it then. Believe American football, when I went out to play with the Aviators in the spring league, I stand up and hey lads, how's it going? My name's Tadhg, and straight away lads around the room are like, what did he just say? And then I remember I just said to one of them, some people call me Tiger, and then the whole room started going, all right, you're Tiger. So that's how that came about. So it was my introduction to American football, is how it really came about.
And Ty, for you now, what are the next steps? When will you head to Canada? When does training begin?
Training camp is early May, I believe. So that gives me 2.5 months to get ready. I think being a rookie, I think we get into camp a little bit earlier than the older fellows, or the vets as they're called. But yeah, I think I have like 2 months to get ready now, so I'm looking forward to that. And then you're guaranteed nothing. At the end of the day, you're just given the opportunity to kind of be in there and compete for the job. So that's all that's what I've been given. So it's up to me kind of from how I go in terms of my kicking and my punting and kicking off, because I'm doing one thing that I wanted to make sure wherever I ended up was that I could try and continue to do all three phases of kicking, and thankfully I'm going to be given the opportunity to do that in Hamilton. So it's up to me what I do with that from here on out.
Absolutely, and look, if you look down the road, we've seen Lirim. I can't pronounce Lirim's surname. Lirim Hajraju from like Serbia or Montenegro or somewhere, and I've probably offended the whole population over there from not getting the country right. But Lirim Tag was at the Tiger Cats and has made it in the NFL. He was playing for the Cowboys this season for 3 or 4 games, and I think for a lot of people now, especially with the growth of the game in Ireland, it's let's see the next step after this. But I think for now, I think a lot of people are just really excited to see not just yourself in the CFL, but to see that whole international expansion in North America. And when we last spoke to you, you were heading to Europe to play in Poland. That league, the European League of Football, has kicked off. Like, I would love there to be a Dublin team or a Belfast team or whatever. But how did you find it? Because obviously going from the spring league to that, and the last time we properly spoke was before you went over. So how was that for you?
Oh, without it, the ELF, European League of Football, no chance I'd be heading off to Hamilton in May. That's for sure. So personally, it was everything I needed at the right time. I needed more experience, more exposure, opportunity, and the league gave me that. So I can't speak highly enough of it from my own experience and the team itself, Wrocław. But then just for Europe as a whole, this year I'm following on social media. It looks extremely professional, really well done. Every team and just all the different signings and announcements and the stadiums they're now getting. Is it Vienna? I think just announced a really cool stadium they're playing out of. So it's gone pretty quick, considering only 1 year under their belt. So I'll definitely be watching that with interest, and how good it would be to get a team in Ireland, because it is rapidly expanding, and judging by just what I experienced yesterday, there's a lot of people in Ireland interested in the sport. So it would be amazing if something like that could happen down the road.
And Tadhg, I know obviously you said, nothing is a given. You have to go out and earn the spot, but you have been making your way up the ladder. And I suppose just interested in terms of going to play with the Tiger Cats and kind of looking at, is there any of the teams that you could potentially be playing that you would be particularly looking forward to, be that Saskatchewan or any of the others? Like, have you looked at the schedule and said, oh, that could be fun if I had the opportunity?
Yeah, I know this much. I know Toronto, they're just down the road, so I know that's the game that I guess you call that the big rivalry one. So yeah, I knew that from watching last season when they played Toronto. That was a big day out, so it looks class. And the stadium there, Tim Hortons Field, like the town looks like it's a really good football town, because I guess there's probably not a whole lot of other kind of major sports in the city. So it seems like the city really gets behind the team. So yeah, I'd say a home game against Toronto, if I could pick one out, minus a Grey Cup, I would jump at that one.
Absolutely, and as someone that is fortunate to have a Tim Hortons about 5 miles down the road, I can definitely vouch for their coffee tags. You'll definitely be a happy man there, and the people in Hamilton will be happy to have you. Look, obviously at the minute we're not sure, folks, on how we can watch Tag. We're presuming it's going to be on BT Sport, but it hasn't been fully confirmed yet. But this happens every year. It seems to sort of be confirmed towards the season. Season starting in June, Tag. So you're starting a few months before the NFL there, and it's going to be an exciting time. Did you get much of a chance when you were training in Spain to maybe catch the end of the NFL season yourself, or was it early nights and early mornings practicing?
I'm glad to say it was a bit boring, but I made a bit of a promise to myself. It was like, I want to jump into this and be as ready as possible. So it was early nights. The odd time I have a pint and stuff, but I've been laying pretty low. I allowed myself last night for a bit of a celebration with the news, but no. So I watched Super Bowl and stuff, of course, but no, I was yeah. I'm just very happy to say I took early nights most of the nights, and I feel better for it now. So, which is a good thing for heading into training camp to feel good about yourself. But I do remember maybe chatting to you via WhatsApp. The thing that was the best to watch from the kind of playoffs and stuff was just how well the kickers went, and the amount of buzz and chat that was about the kicking community, and the lads hitting game winners and stuff. So no, that was very exciting to see, and I think it just gave kickers a little bit more of a leg up.
Absolutely, Tadhg, and I think you saw, as Michael mentioned earlier, the reaction on Twitter, both here on the island of Ireland, but also I saw plenty of Tiger Hamilton fans who were really delighted that you had signed, and adding to, the global dimension. So we want to wish you all the very best. We're going to continue to follow the journey of Tadhg Leader. And we look forward to welcoming you back to the show in the not too distant future.
Thank you very much, lads. Pleasure as always, and thanks. I always say it, but thanks for you lads helping me out as well. It's greatly appreciated, and to everyone that's kind of shot me a message over the last few days, it's been really, really appreciated. So I just can't thank everyone enough.
Tag, thanks a million. As Colin said, you'll be in the late by Christmas at this point. And look here, I am going to challenge Colin to Colin. I've never been to Canada, and the season starts in June. Let's do it for a week. Yeah, I'm sure Tag will.
Canadian road trip.
Cheers, lads. It's a packed Irish NFL show this week. We're delighted to welcome on the producer of Good Morning Football, the NFL Network. You may have seen him around. Obviously, a lot of different things as well. Previously with NFL Films, Lions Scouting, Matt Hamilton. Matt, thanks so much for joining us on the Irish NFL show. How's it going?
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here. Everything's going well. Settling into that post Super Bowl off season life, but it's a different kind of grind now for us. But a lot more excitement to come with the combine coming up, the draft, everything going on. So, just switching gears a little bit. We're excited.
Yeah, you're a bit like us. We went from the West Coast to the East Coast as well, but we went to the far East Coast over in Ireland again. It's been a bit of a journey. But here, just for yourself, Matt, we ask every guest this: have you ever been to Ireland? Have you any family from Ireland yourself?
I have not been to Ireland yet. It's on my list because I do have some ancestry from there, on my father's side. So that's definitely want to go there at some point soon.
Matt, I think you talked about this on a podcast recently, your Jaguars fandom. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And obviously, an interesting season for the Jags. What do you make about the off-season changes and your new head coach?
So, first off, as far as the Jaguars fandom, that was something that has come to me a little bit later in life. I grew up a Giants fan in the New York area, and but after working for the Detroit Lions, working with teams, working in the NFL for a little bit, your fandom kind of dissipates. And during the second season of Good Morning Football, before the season started, we had a segment, which team's going to make the biggest jump in 2017, and I kind of pitched all the hosts. I thought the Jaguars were gonna make a big leap. I love the offseason they had with signing Calais Campbell, drafting Fournette. A lot, I thought they made a lot of great moves, and I got kind of laughed off by every single host individually. So I decided at that moment I was gonna start repping the Jaguars, just as a little reminder to them. When the Jaguars got going, that they blew me off and that they should be sorry about it. So as the season progressed, of course, that was the year the Jaguars ended up going to the AFC title game. And I wear my Jaguars hat in the background of the show, and some people from the team picked up on it and reached out to me. And the mayor of Jacksonville actually saw it and reached out to me as well and had me come down there. So they kind of adopted me into that fan base over time, which was a really fun experience. And they have a great group of fans there. I feel like people kind of poke fun at that fan base a little bit, say that they're that try to make them seem like they're an inferior fan base because it's a smaller market, but that they have such loyal, devoted, passionate fans, and it's a shame that people kind of jab at them the way that they do, because it's honestly my favorite fan base in the NFL. They're as passionate, as loyal as it gets, and you kind of have to be, especially as you said, with everything that went on this offseason. It was a tumultuous ride for them, but I think ultimately you get a Super Bowl winning head coach and Doug Peterson and everything he brings to the table. I think it's an exciting hire for them, and hopefully one that's going to get Trevor Lawrence on the right track now.
Man, I'm a Giants fan, and people have been poking fun at me for the past 10 years, but the beauty of the Irish NFL show is you can't switch allegiance. There's too many people interacting with the show. You touched on it there, the transition from the offseason, I suppose the Super Bowl into the offseason. The combine is fast approaching. Look, we saw Aaron Rodgers this week. There's no story at the moment. He's pretty much put that to bed that nothing is going to happen anytime soon. Is there any particular storyline this offseason, even if it's similar to last year, that you're going to keep an eye on, that you're really keen to see how it evolves over the next few months?
I'm fascinated to see the quarterback situation play out in San Francisco. I mean, everybody anticipates Jimmy Garoppolo getting traded at some point soon. That kind of seems to be a foregone conclusion at this point. I saw Deebo Samuel at the Super Bowl, and he basically said he expects it to happen any day now. Those guys in that locker room all love Jimmy, but I think they just know their writing's on the wall. So I'm interested to see, one, if Trey Lance is able to take that leap forward. We saw a little bit of him this year, and it wasn't particularly inspiring, but we know the natural ability, the natural talent is there, and there's plenty to be excited about there from a raw ability standpoint. I'm also wondering if Aaron Rodgers does become available, if they try to make a move there, because obviously we know Rodgers, that's a place that he wanted to go when he was drafted, when the Niners had the number 1 pick and ended up taking Alex Smith over him. I also wonder if Tom Brady's having second thoughts about maybe coming back, if that's a place that he would look, because again, another childhood fan of that Niners team. So there's the fact, Trey Lance is fascinating enough, but then when you throw those two names in the mix, I feel like anything can happen for the Niners this offseason. And we know how close they were to getting back to that Super Bowl last year. Obviously, if they get one of those two guys, they're going to probably be the favorites in the NFC heading into next season.
It's going to be an intriguing offseason. And the one thing, Matt, that really works here with the NFL and the fans in Ireland, the UK and Europe is Good Morning Football. So, for example, obviously in Ireland, the UK, you get Sky Sports showing it. And there's so many fans of the show over here. And I was very fortunate to speak to a couple of guys from NFL Films, when I was over in SoFi, and they were talking about how the show is recorded in the World Trade Center in the new building in New York, and there's some like external production taking place in like New Jersey, if I'm correct.
Yep.
What's it like being a producer on Good Morning Football? Like talk us through that early morning. Are we talking like 3 a.m. Eastern? So you're like us, you're getting up at like 8 a.m. Our time, yeah.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's the hours, and it's funny, they say, oh, the hours when you work in morning TV, you'll get used to it. I've been on the show for 6 years. You never get used to it. You just try to you find different ways to manage it. But it's a blast. It really is. I mean, you see how much fun the hosts are. And we kind of just get free reign to do what we want in a lot of ways and have fun with the show, which it hasn't really been like that anywhere else that I've been. So it's been a really cool experience, and we've been able to kind of cultivate our own voice in this industry over these 6 years, and it's been it was hard to foresee when we first started, but the way that it's developed has been so much fun, and we got the chance to go out in I believe it was 2018 or 2019. Go out to London for 2 weeks, and we were just blown away by the passion of the fans out there, and just how much our show seemed to resonate with all the fans out in the UK and across all of Europe, and how many fans traveled from all across Europe to go to those games. It was really eye-opening for us, because you don't necessarily know. You hear there are a lot of fans out there, but until you actually see it in the flesh and see just the passion going to some of those tailgates, and how it's tens of thousands of fans in those parking lots, and even some of them, like people running up to Nate in tears, like it felt like the four hosts are like the Beatles sometimes with the reaction that they got. It was really mind-blowing, and it really opened our eyes to how big the international fan base really is.
Absolutely, and obviously that's something that the league is going to grow with games now in Germany as well. But I suppose you do coach QBs, and you've been around the league, and I'm just wondering, like a lot of talk this year, the QB class isn't as strong, but at the same time, I suppose, I've been watching the game a long time, and every year we see, maybe the first two QBs taken off the board aren't necessarily the guys who, are the top performers. Patrick Mahomes wasn't the first QB to go. Justin Herbert wasn't the first QB to go. Josh Allen, and you can go down. Now, obviously, Joe Burrow was number one, and he did it. But I'm just interested, I suppose, as somebody who's been around the game, as coach kids, just like from your perspective, looking at this QB class that we have and making that transition, do you share all the concerns that people are talking about at the moment?
Yeah, so I've the last 2 days I've spent really digging into this quarterback class, because, as I said, we're so locked into the NFL season. I kind of, as soon as the Super Bowl is over, then I just start grinding tape and watching as much of these. I start with the quarterbacks and just start watching as much as I can. And it's a class where you have a lot of intriguing guys. I think I would be very surprised if one or two of these guys doesn't end up becoming a big player. And I think situation is going to dictate a lot of that. But they all have things that really stand out about them. Like Malik Willis, the physical skill set is so intriguing. And then you have guys like Kenny Pickett, where you could see mentally, he's got it. Like the physical skill set may be lacking a little bit as far as arm strength and things like that. But you see the way he can pick apart defenses and how intelligent he is, and the mobility that he has, and the pocket movement that he has. So I just think, I think one of the biggest things that determines, obviously, like NFL teams haven't figured it out yet, how to predict quarterback play. There's so many hits and misses at the position. And I think situation is a huge determining factor. Getting in the right system, getting the right talent around you, getting the right coaching, I think it matters so much. And I think also just the off the field stuff, the stuff you can't see on film, really makes such a big difference too. And that's where the interviews at the combine really come into play. And I think that's where, because being successful at the quarterback position, there's so much more to it than talent, and even than intelligence. You have to have those leadership abilities. You have to be able to command the room. And that's the stuff like Patrick Mahomes. You saw the raw talent on his tape. You saw some concerns with, him maybe taking too many chances sometimes, things like that. But for him to get with a coach like Andy Reid in that offensive scheme, and then for his makeup, he's the type of guy who just outworks everybody and who's a natural born leader. So it's those intangibles and it's the situation that I think, can really help these guys who might have some concerns grow and blossom into superstars.
Matt, we're talking about the draft, and I suppose the last couple of years, the draft has been moved around from different locations throughout the States, originally in Radio City, and it's moved. And I think it's one of the best decisions the NFL has probably done because it's become such a spectacle. This year, Vegas, have you thought too far ahead in terms of the work you're going to have on? Will you be traveling out there? And that should be a fantastic week for yourselves.
Oh, I'm waiting to hear if we are officially doing that. I'm hoping, because that will be a lot of fun. And we kind of got a little West Coast, doing the show live on the West Coast. We got some of that under our belt, so now we know what we're in for with those 1 a.m. wake ups and all that. But yeah, that'll be something. You're right. Like moving the draft every single year was such a good move. I wasn't sure about it at first, to be honest, because it was such a staple being in New York. Being at Radio City Music Hall, it was such, it was such a tradition. But it has been such an incredible move since they've done that. It's just the fans that show up in every city. I remember the first one we went to was in Philadelphia, and they had the stage up on the art museum steps that Rocky runs up in the movie, and just to see that place packed with fans and just the atmosphere created there, it was something special. And it's been like that every single place they've had it since.
You'll need a remote spot in Vegas to do the show because Vegas is 24/7. So
yeah, it's true.
It's gonna be a fun few weeks and months in Vegas, and never mind the draft, the Super Bowl in 2 years. I dread to think, boys, what we're going to be doing in those few weeks. Matt, you were talking there a bit about LA, and I think for a lot of the people in Ireland and the UK and Europe that are maybe listening to this, they've watched the NFL Network coverage this year from the new studio, and I have to say, I completely found out when I walked past the garden, like the studio garden on game day, and like I know it was all fenced up, but it's an incredible setup from the outside. It must be amazing inside, because that's my one regret is not getting in there on the Monday before I had to go to LAX, to be honest with you.
It was absolutely spectacular. They did such an amazing job with those facilities. I've never seen anything like it. We're getting a little jealous, to be honest, because it's such an incredible place. It's like a museum and a studio all in one. They just have so much going on there. There's beautiful artwork everywhere. Everything's state of the art. It's just they did an unbelievable job with it, and it being right next to SoFi is really, really cool too. So we were fortunate to get to spend a couple of weeks working out of there and experiencing all of that. It was a lot of fun for us.
Matt, I think one of the things that I'm most jealous of is Kyle Brandt and Peter's jacket collection when they're on the show. But you mentioned getting up earlier. I imagine when Kyle does his Angry Runs segment, the energy in the studio must be great. And I suppose I'm interested, in your thoughts on the way in which the game has gone. We haven't seen, I suppose, running backs, have the sort of kind of back to back like Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, OJ, kind of 3 or 4 years as the rushing leader. Now, Derrick Henry probably would have been without injury, but every year there's kind of maybe a new face who jumps up, having had a good first year or a good couple of years, and then makes the jump. Who do you think might be? Are there some names that you think could potentially be in the running to be the rushing leader this year?
Oh man, that's a great question. That's a great point. It was looking like it was going to be Derrick Henry kind of becoming that guy again and being kind of that running back that had been lost over the years. But yeah, with the injury, that wasn't able to happen. I mean, I don't see any reason why Jonathan Taylor shouldn't be up there again. With that offensive line, with his running style, I would expect him to be in the mix. The other guy I would really watch for is Najee Harris, because we saw last year the Steelers offense ran through him. And they have a lot of work to do with the offensive. The offensive line still wasn't great. He had a good season. I think if the focus this offseason, obviously their biggest focus is going to be finding a quarterback. But beyond that, I think it's going to be improving that offensive line. And if they're able to take the steps forward they need to take with that offensive line, he's a guy I can see being at the top of the league and rushing next year.
Matt, you're in New York. I suppose you hear a lot of the talk around the Giants and the Jets, but the Jets, for me, are a very intriguing team coming into this offseason. They've got the 4th and the 10th pick in the draft. They've got plenty of cap space. Do you think Joe Douglas? Everybody raised about the fact now that the Adams trade to Seattle looks like it was a great deal for the Jets. Do you think they're going to go heavy in free agency, or do you think you'll just kind of try pick holes in the roster and try methodically upgrade the team?
I think we'll see the Jets. The Jets always tend to be players in free agency. They have a little bit of cap space, so I'd look for them to try to bolster the roster a bit. But I do think those draft picks are going to be where we really see them make their biggest upgrades, and they're picks that they need to hit at this point. They need to surround Zach Wilson with the right pieces. They need to get better defensively. They need to upgrade the talent there. So luckily for them, this is a draft, a draft where you don't need a quarterback. It's a good draft to not need a quarterback in, because there's a lot of other talent. There's some great offensive line prospects. There's some great pass rushing prospects, receivers, like all stuff that they could definitely use. So I think this could be a draft where we see the Jets take a big step forward. Because you're right, we saw flashes out of them last year. You saw games where they were able to beat the Titans. They were able to beat the Bengals when they were healthier and able to put it together. There's some talent there, and within a year or two, I wouldn't be surprised if they're a real competitive team in the AFC.
A play away from beating the Bucs.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens with the Jets. The Jets in London last year, maybe in London this year, boys. And obviously your Jags, Matt, are going to be playing at Wembley again this year. I'm buzzing to have a game back at Wembley again. But Matt, just finally, you've been extremely generous for your time. You're a guy that gets up early in the morning. We love Good Morning Football over here, and we love the work that you do. For the people watching Good Morning Football and maybe they want to find out more about yourself, can you maybe let people know about your socials and maybe any exclusives coming up over the next few months? I'm not sure if Brian O'Leary is gonna pop on Good Morning Football. Or Brian, are you gonna?
Well, that would be awesome. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at MattHamilton25. And as I'll pop into the show on occasion. Still remains to be seen whether I'll be doing that in the off season or not for the draft as we get ready, but I'm hopeful. And we'll be going strong all off season. So I hope you guys stay tuned in as we go through the combine, free agency, the draft. We're going to be maybe the off season for NFL teams, but we're still going strong.
Okay, folks, our final guest this week on the Irish NFL show, second week of the off season. We're all struggling here, but you know what? We're finding good content to talk about. Delighted to welcome in for the first time Daire Carragher. You may have seen him on Twitter. He's a Packers writer at 24/7 Sports Packer Report. Also working there with a wee bit of work there with PFF. Good to welcome someone from the Yorkshire County on. You can see by the jersey. Daire, welcome in.
It's good. It's good to be here. Good to bring the Orchard to the national stage. As they were in Croke Park not so long ago. Thanks for having me, lads.
Absolutely. And here, look, I mean, there's no point in me asking you about your heritage. Like, I mean, you literally live up the road from me here, hi. But look, can you maybe tell people, especially because you've seen yourself the amount of people now on the island of Ireland that are now coming into the NFL and enjoying it. Like, how did you get into this, and just with your work now and stuff?
Look, I wish there was a defining moment when, like, oh, this is when I knew I wanted to be a fan. No, there isn't really. I started watching it. Oh, I'm gonna sound like a wee baby here now because I didn't even see the Packers win the Super Bowl in 2010. I started watching in 2011, 2012. I was sort of dipping into it. My brother is a Broncos fan. Michael, you'll be happy to hear. He's really got me into the sport overall. And then after, I'd say 2015, 2016, really started getting into it. And now, I mean, Overdrive, it's all I care about anymore. So.
Well, good to hear. There's a Broncos connection in the family, anyway, Dara. But I suppose, look, a lot of people will probably, be familiar with you from Twitter, but I'll be familiar with you from Twitter where, like, the Packer stuff. But you had the video last year, Key and Peel video that you made for Aaron Rodgers, which was fantastic, and it absolutely exploded. I'm interested, I suppose. Look, there was last year, but as a Packers fan, what's it like watching it play out again for a second off season?
I'm sort of mixed around it. Part of it wrecks your head. Like, you just kind of wish you could, like, this has been 2 off seasons now. Packers content really hasn't taken a break since the draft last year when the Rodgers story came out. It was a story all last summer. Obviously, they only had the whole season. Now it's happening all over again. It doesn't really take a break, but it is fun. I like you said, there are them videos. You get to just have a laugh and mess around with stuff like that, and you sort of find the funny side in all of it, and don't get too caught up in what's going to happen in the end.
It definitely keeps the 7-month off season going. Or if you're a bad team, 9-month off season, you could literally have a child in the time it takes from the game team to the next. That's literally 9 months. It's mad. But here, look, for anyone listening to this or watching this on the podcast or on the show, Dara, like, we're at Thursday night here. So Thursday the 24th. We have pre-recorded this. There's no point in us lying. It's still a wee bit daylight when the show's going out. Aaron Rodgers. Now, no one are, look, and we said this off camera, no one are, look, something is going to happen in between the next 2 or 3 days. But and Colin sort of mentioned it there, and you said there hasn't been a rest, but it seems as if from this date that we're going to hear an answer very soon. And if you were a betting man, or obviously maybe taking the cheesehead fan hat off for a minute, what do you think is going to happen? Because I think for a lot of neutrals, it's a really intriguing situation, and it's probably, and I'm sure Colin would agree with this, it's the biggest off-season story in a very, very long time. Maybe apart from Brady on Paddy's Day 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a massive storyline, as you say, and it can sway in a number of ways. The way I see it, there's 3 outcomes. It's either he's staying on a new restructured sort of contract, newly renegotiated, or he's getting traded, or he's retiring. Retiring is obviously worst case scenario for the Packers. I would indicate, and this is trying to remove as much fan bias as I can. I think all signs point towards him staying, just because of what the team has been doing. Like, they've restructured a few contracts. They restructured Aaron Jones on Thursday. It's coming out on Sunday. They restructured him, and that was kind of seen as an all-in move, like okay, we're going to win this year. I think they're bracing for him to come back. I hope this doesn't age terribly and he's a Denver Bronco by Sunday. But yeah, I'm optimistic that he's back.
It'll certainly be interesting. It'll be interesting if he does come back, as you said, with those restructures. It looks like they might be running it back. It will be interesting to see in 2 or 3 years' time what that might mean for the cap. But I suppose one of the things, maybe moving on from Rodgers a little bit, Dara, is what was a glaring, probably the only glaring weakness for the Packers last year, special teams. And you've made the change in the off season, bringing in new special teams coordinator. Were you surprised that they didn't make the change during the season last year? Because it was obvious that there were issues throughout.
Yeah, it felt like
it felt like from what LaFleur was saying in the press conferences that it was too late to change, is what he basically said. It got to the bye week. The Packers had a very late bye week this year, week 13. And there was talk of, you've got the 2 weeks. Do you completely reset this whole special team structure? And he kind of just brushed it off as, look, this is coming after the season. We can't do it right now. We just have to lie in our bed here that we've made. And funny, they came back off of that with a game against the Bears in Lambeau. They won comfortably, but I swear it was the worst special team performance I've seen in my entire life. They let a punt return touchdown go 97 yards. Every kickoff was coming back near midfield. It didn't matter in the end. As has been the case with a lot of Packers games this past year, it's just been strong offense just cancelling out probably one of the worst special teams units in NFL history. So I was surprised they didn't make that sooner, but I'm happy with Bisaccia. I mean, you can't ask for a better coach to come in than someone who took a team to the playoffs as a head coach. He was a coach of the year candidate. So yeah, I'm optimistic that it turns around. I don't know how much goes into it. It's special teams. We don't look too much into it at the end of the day, but just have to hope that it goes right in the end.
Yeah, I would say that you're probably it would have been just at the start of your kind of NFL journey, but the Packers this year were up there, but not quite the 2010 Chargers, who for my money are the absolute worst. Every single week it was like a true blooper video every week. But it's funny
number
how
one offense, number one defense, and they didn't make the playoffs.
Yes, and that's the thing. Like, it's funny how it can come to bite you. But as you said, what a pickup for the Packers in terms of the coordinator there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy with that move, and it's just a case of emphasizing it and getting the right players in. And it's something you look at in the draft, and they're going to have to wait more into their special teams play when they're scouting those late round picks.
Being that next generation fan and analyst, you've been lucky in the sense that the Packers haven't played in London. And I'm not going to publicly say they're refusing. I have no idea. They just haven't played in London. It's obviously hard to get teams over. That would be a hell of a game this year if it was going to happen. It looks as if we're going to have, touch wood, a really, really good game in Munich. But are you maybe preparing to make the trip over to Wisconsin next season or the season after? Because the one thing about the Packers, and I mean, you obviously know this, but if people aren't aware of this, watching or listening, there's obviously like a UK and Irish fan group, and there's so many fans over here. So is the plan to hop on a plane in Dublin, Daire, next year, or what's the crack there?
Well, I'll definitely be going to London, regardless of who's playing. I'll be making a trip to London. I'll probably be making a trip to Munich because that just seems like a great crack. I haven't actually been to an NFL game at any point before. We were supposed to go to London this year. That kind of fell through. I will be trying to get out to Wisconsin next year. It's a difficult place to get to. Like, it's not the Miami or the New York. Like, you have to go to Chicago. Then do you fly up? It's a whole siege, that. But I'm hoping to get out next year. I want to see Rodgers in action. I can't go my life without watching him play at least once.
And Daire, I suppose, like, when we outside of the Rodgers situation and bringing players back, in terms of maybe free agency and the draft, what are the positions, maybe not even particular players, but what are the positions you'd like to see the Packers address?
Well, a lot of it does hinge on who's back and who isn't. Currently, the Packers have only one receiver under contract next year, and that's Amari Rodgers, who was pretty terrible this year. So it'll be a case of if Adams is back, if MVS is back, then they should be okay there. But other positions they need to address, I think edge rusher will be a big need because Zadarius Smith is likely gone. Preston Smith could be here next year, but it will be limited after that. They need someone opposite Rashawn Gary, and they just need to keep bolstering that defense, in my opinion.
And obviously as well, keeping guys like maybe David Bakhtiari is vital as well. I seen you had that tweet the other day, the GTA one. Here we go again. But
yeah,
it's just going to be such a vital off season for this team.
Oh yeah, it'll be big. This is an off season that will probably define the next 5 or 6 years of the Packers, no doubt. Brian Gutekunst, I mean, he's got a bad rap from like a whole national scale because of the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. He's been an absolutely excellent general manager. From the players he brought in, like he brought in Devondre Campbell this year for about $1 million, and he became an All Pro. Like it's been incredible what he's managed to do. I have a lot of faith in that he can sort of guide the ship in the right direction going forward. But yeah, it's a huge off season, no doubt.
And Dara, in terms, Matt LaFleur, I mean, what a job. But when he got the job, did you think his first 3 years would go quite the way they have?
No, not in a million years. When they hired LaFleur, it was kind of like okay, well, Sean McVay kind of thing, and you just kind of hoped for the best. The Packers of the last 3 years compared to what they were when they kind of fizzled out in the McCarthy era, it's unbelievable. Those last 2 years in the McCarthy era were a complete and utter disaster. That I remember well them losing in Lambeau late in the year to the Cardinals, led by Josh Rosen, one of the worst NFL teams I've ever watched play. They beat the Packers on a dreary December day in Lambeau, and that was what ultimately ended up getting McCarthy fired. To think that they've only lost like something like 3 home games since that was played, they've been incredible. Obviously, one of those home games, the most recent one, won't be remembered too fondly. But yeah, I've been absolutely impressed with LaFleur, and he'll be the coach there for decades.
Dara, in your time, just last one for me, but in your time as an NFL fan and being active on Twitter, what have you thought of the growth of the NFL, both north and south of the border in Ireland? Because it's been a mad few years, and it's great to see. There's obviously that UK-centric situation there, but there's so many people popping up now, whether it's in Armagh or RD or in Column's case for Moy or for Mana. It's been a great few years because it's just blew up.
Oh yeah, it's class. Compared to what it was when I started watching to what it is now, it's amazing. Like everybody, it seems like when I'm around my friends with my age, everyone kind of has that baseline knowledge of the NFL, which was never a thing before. Like everyone kind of knows. Like if you asked people what team does Aaron Rodgers play for, an awful lot of them could say the Packers, which like, considering how far away the sport is being played, that's pretty impressive to be able to list off who's played for what teams. But yeah, the growth has been unreal, and it's great to have more games back on this side of the Atlantic this year after the league.
And Dara, just interested as a Packers fan, and whether it's this year or next year, say Rodgers does come back, what are your thoughts on Jordan Love? Would you be happy to see him as QB1 for the Packers?
I am lambasted on Twitter for being called the biggest Jordan Love supporter of all time. I think Jordan's going to be a star. Maybe it's a bit too much fan bias in that. I love the Jordan Love pick because I really liked him before the draft. That ended up, no one could have anticipated Rodgers going scorched earth for 2 years following it. But I would be confident with Love going forward. Obviously, if Rodgers is gone this year, Love, you're not going to really compete with Love in year one. But down the line, I have confidence in him, and I think when you look at this year's quarterback draft, it's pretty weak. Jordan Love, he's younger than Kenny Pickett. He's 6 months older than Malik Willis. Like, he's young enough to be in this class. He's got 2 years experience behind an MVP. He's already been in the league, obviously 2 years. That's a huge benefit. I don't see why Jordan Love wouldn't be a top 5 pick in this draft class, which sounds crazy, but I think it would happen. So that's how much confidence I have in Love.
Dara, it's been great chatting to you, mate, and obviously at Dara Carragher on Twitter. And look, I just pray to God that we get to Sunday and nothing's happened with Rodgers, and we were joking maybe it might happen on Tuesday on the Pat McAfee show, which is turning into like a daily tradition in my house after coming back from work. But no, here seriously, all the very best in the off season and just continued success. I know hopefully you get to see Aaron play in person. I was lucky to see him play before Christmas, and it was something I hope you get the experience, because even as a non-Packers fan, it was incredible. And look, I wish you all the best. No, Colin does as well, apart from Armagh in the championship this year.
Oh, listen, I'm a lot happier to watch Rian O'Neill before I watch Aaron Rodgers. That's the real superstar here.
There's the quote of the week. Cheers, Dara. Thanks a million.
Thanks, pals. All right.